The world didn't even notice it at first. A tiny number flashing at the bottom of a TV screen. A 45, that suddenly became a 5. A statistic so strange, so impossible, that even seasoned analysts shrugged it off as a broadcast glitch. But it wasn't a glitch. It was the beginning of a story no one was prepared for. For months, people wondered silently. What kind of athlete goes from 45 to 5 in a single year? What hidden battle was unfolding behind the cameras? And how does a man with a body built for baseball perform a transformation that looks almost supernatural? By the time the truth began to surface, living rooms across Japan and America had already been flooded with the same mysterious graphic, a number that felt like a riddle, a challenge, and a warning all at once. Shohei Ohtani was never supposed to be just good. Everyone knew that. But what the world didn't know was how deeply he was willing to change himself to keep climbing higher than anyone had ever climbed before. The year began with chaos, pressure, and scrutiny heavier than any season he had ever walked into. Every camera turned toward him. Every headline demanded perfection. Every fan expected miracles on command. But quietly, without complaint, Ohtani began shaping the kind of year that athletes rarely survive, let alone dominate. The 45 wasn't about baseball. It wasn't about home runs or strikeouts. It was something far more human. Something he kept buried from the spotlight. Something that made his transformation almost unbelievable. The simple version: he was carrying too much. Too much expectation. Too much noise. Too much weight, literally and figuratively. And then, in complete silence, he made a choice. He carved his world down to the essentials. Training, rest, discipline, purpose. Everything else vanished. He rebuilt his body from the inside out. The number 45 fell like a stone. The number 5 rose like a flame. And as this change unfolded behind closed doors, something else began happening in front of the entire world. Brands exploded around him. Endorsements multiplied like wildfire. Global companies lined up just to borrow his aura for a few seconds of commercial airtime. And people finally saw the second number. Not 5, not 45, but 150 billion yen, an almost mythical secondary income that made even Hollywood elites raise their eyebrows. It was absurd. It was historic. It was completely Ohtani. But the real mystery wasn't the money. It was how he earned it while also playing through a year of emotional storms the public never saw, storms that could have swallowed other athletes whole. Every night, he stood under the stadium lights with that same calm expression, as if nothing in the world could touch him. But beneath that stillness was a fire that no camera could capture. The fire of a man proving something only he understood. He didn't chase the spotlight chased him. He didn't chase approval appeared at his feet. He didn't chase money crashed into him like a tidal wave. And still, he stayed himself. In a world obsessed with noise, he chose silence. In a world obsessed with drama, he chose discipline. In a world obsessed with fame, he chose purpose. The year unfolded like a movie. Stadiums shook under the weight of his home runs. Teammates looked at him like they were witnessing something that shouldn't be possible. Opponents prepared for him the way soldiers prepare for battle. Yet through it all, the mystery of the 45 right-pointing arrow 5 inches lingered in the minds of every fan who had ever paused during a broadcast, rewound the TV, and wondered, what did I just see? And in the end, the answer was simple, but not easy. He didn't just transform his body. He transformed his life. He streamlined every piece of himself into a perfect machine of purpose and clarity. He removed everything that didn't make him stronger. He let go of everything that didn't belong in his future. The result was a season so clean, so efficient, so powerful, that even his off-field income broke the limits of what an athlete should be able to earn. The world stared. Fans gasped. Critics surrendered. Because what he did wasn't human. It was something higher. Something rare. Something that would echo for decades in the halls of baseball history. The number 45 belonged to the past. The number 5 belonged to the man he became. And the billions, that belonged to a world finally realizing his true value. But the greatest part of his story wasn't the transformation or the money or the fame. It was the message hidden inside it, the message no one expected him to teach. That silence can be power. That discipline can be its own kind of rebellion. That greatness isn't built in loud moments but in quiet sacrifices most people never see. And that sometimes, the biggest change isn't the one in your stats. It's the one in your soul. So when the number flashed again on screens across the world, people didn't question it this time. They understood. This wasn't a glitch. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't luck. This was the evolution of Shohei Ohtani. A man who shrank the unnecessary, expanded the extraordinary, and rose into a tier of greatness so rare the world is still struggling to catch up. And as the season closed, as the lights dimmed, as the questions finally settled into answers, one truth remained above all. He didn't just change the numbers. He changed what was possible. And somewhere, in the quiet between games, between seasons, between the man he was and the legend he is becoming, Shohei Ohtani smiled. Because he knew, the world had only seen the beginning.